about marriage and divorce, then Holy Mother Church needs to be speaking about marriage, divorce, and annulments. Because after listening to this gospel, your question should be, no human being must separate. Then why is Holy Mother Church going around separating marriages by granting annulments? That's the question, and the answer is this. Holy Mother Church is not separating marriages by annulments because an annulment states that a sacramental marriage never took place. Okay, we'll work up to that. Divorce is a civil reality. Divorce is a process of the state. An annulment is a process of the church law. It has sacramental and spiritual aspects to it. So whenever we talk about annulment, you need to keep those terms in mind. Sacramental, something holy, something deeply spiritual, something very good from God. What does an annulment say? What does an annulment do? An annulment after a divorce says that union is no longer binding. It is declared null and void because it was never a sacrament or never had the potential to become the beauty of a sacrament that God intended that marriage to become. And how could that possibly be? How could that happen? How could the church make that kind of a pronouncement? Because there was some kind of impediment, we might call some kind of really serious issue in the marriage, maybe a fatal flaw, we could call it. Something that did not allow that marriage from the beginning to flower into something beautiful and sacramental. Something such as one of the spouses not really believing that marriage needed to be permanent and lifelong. That's one of the goods of marriage, as we understand it, what we might call one of the essential ingredients of marriage, for it to be sacramental. We must have an understanding that what the spouses need to understand is what they're entering into is something that is permanent and lifelong. But what if one of the spouses says, well, I really don't believe in that. You know, everybody gets divorced these days. If this doesn't work out, I'll just move on. That can't be sacramental. That cannot be an attitude that somebody brings into a Catholic marriage. Or maybe another good of marriage is fidelity. Maybe there is serial infidelity in the marriage. Well, that's not a holy thing. Or maybe one or both of the spouses decides that they're not open to children. That's another good of marriage, another essential for a Catholic sacramental marriage, to be open to having children. And maybe on the day of the marriage it was kind of like this. Yeah, I'll say whatever the church needs me to say in order to get married, but down the line, if I don't want kids, I'm not going to have them. That's a big problem. Or maybe there's spousal abuse, or one of many other serious issues that so compromise the sacramental integrity of that marriage that it cannot be deemed a valid sacramental marriage in the eyes of the church. And so an annulment will be issued. And what does that mean then? Does it mean that if I get an annulment after 20 years of my marriage, or your marriage, I'll never get married, your marriage of 20 years never existed? Certainly not. A natural marriage existed. A civil civil marriage existed, but unfortunately a deeply spiritual marriage did not exist because of some really, really serious issue. Well, what about the children? You know, in the olden days, the name that was attached, and in the church book sometimes you'll see the word illegitimate in the old registers, but the church doesn't believe that at all. That the children are innocent when it comes to annulments. How about if I'm married and divorced as a Catholic, can I still come to church and receive communion? Yes. Period. If I'm a Catholic, I'm married, divorced, and remarried without an annulment, can I receive communion? No. The church needs to have the opportunity to look at your previous marriage, possibly grant you an annulment, which frees you from that marriage. And then you are free to marry again or not marry. But for every marriage, and mind you, deacon who is an assessor for our diocese who is trained to work with annulments, sometimes deals with multiple marriages and multiple divorces, which require multiple annulments, to look at each one, to see if the person is still bound to any of those previous marriages, which is the point that Jesus brings up in the gospel today, that the man who divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery himself, and if he does that, he causes his wife also to commit adultery. Well, how can that be? Well, at the time of Jesus, divorce, a man who divorces his wife for really ridiculous reasons, burning his meal, or finding another woman who was more attractive. Jesus says that's ridiculous. From the very beginning, God intended marriage to be permanent and lifelong. So you would need a really serious reason to divorce your wife. And if a man divorces his wife, that forces her to marry someone else, because in the first century, it was hard for a woman to survive without her man. She needed to be married to have some physical means of support. So Jesus is saying, by that nonsense of just going around divorcing whoever you're married to just because you think you found someone better is ridiculous. It causes sin, and it's certainly not good for family life. So, while all of this may sound very judicial, which it is, the intent of annulments is to, really in one way highlight the beauty of marriage and family life and how high God and His Son Jesus Christ set the bar for marriage. That for Catholics, our understanding of marriage is only sacramental. To enter marriage for a Catholic is to enter a marriage that is permanent and lifelong, where the couples promise fidelity, the spouses promise fidelity to one another for life, where there is openness to children, where there is mutual love, support, and sharing. And when those goods are seriously compromised, that is when perhaps an annulment may be granted after a divorce. That's the darker side of the good news, but hopefully that is some explanation. Maybe you don't need any of that, but maybe you know someone who does. Someone who has become separated from the church because of an irregular marriage situation. Well, now you become an ambassador, an evangelist, to tell them there is hope and possibly good news. And they should pick up the phone and call me or call Deacon to see if we can help them. And in a way, so much of our Lord's teaching really goes back to the promise that couples make on their wedding day. You know that when couples get married, it is they who actually contract marriage between themselves. It's not the priest or the deacon that magically makes it happen. It's the couples, which is why the promise of marriage, the vows are so important that the couple come with the knowledge of the sacrament of marriage, the intent, the willingness, and the ability to live up to that promise, to keep it. And I want to close with a quote that is from the play By the Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. And in this play, Maggie and George are married, and George is about to walk out on Maggie. But before he goes, this is what Maggie says to him. She says, "George, you know, I didn't marry you because you were perfect. I married you because you gave me a promise. The promise you gave me made up for your faults, and the promise I gave you made up for mine." Two imperfect people got married, and it was that promise that made the marriage. And so when our children were growing up, it wasn't our house that protected them, it wasn't even our love that protected them, it was that promise. And that's exactly what the Catholic Church believes about marriage, that the promise is everything. So let us pray that we may all be promise keepers as members of a family, as spouses, as married couples who have enjoyed the powerful sacramentality of marriage for decades, and for those who are most recently married. And let us also pray for those couples and families who are struggling. Let us pray too for those who need help. And now you as ambassadors and evangelists, should you come across someone who needs help, tell them to give Deacon or myself a call. Remember that God and Jesus, when it comes to marriage, have set the bar very high. It's a bar worth reaching.